The crossing over between waifus and tulpas is something that attains scorn from both communities, yet I consider them to be natural complements of one another. In this video, I explain how waifus can become tulpas, why you may want to consider doing that, and how waifu tulpas feel and act years down the road. This video is primarily aimed at people who have waifus or are considering making a tulpa for romantic interests, but others may find it interesting as well. Many tulpas end up in romantic relationships with their hosts and creators. This is not something to be feared, for these relationships are as deep and fulfilling as any other. The degree of closeness shared by a host and tulpa makes their bond inherently strong for romance and love. Many of the happiest tulpas and hosts are united in this way, whether or not they originally intended it. These relationships are often the direct consequence of a waifu. The dedication and attention given to the waifu can be easily transferred to a tulpa, and indeed, when many people first discover tulpas, they find that their waifu is already a tulpa, or on the border of becoming one. Giving her recognition of her reality, her capability for independence, and her permanence may be all that you need to do to make her into a proper tulpa. Even if you find that she is not already a tulpa, the deep knowledge of her character can substantially expedite the creation process. From what I have seen, it is rare for a waifu tulpa to take long to create. Many who are deeply dedicated to their waifus claim that making a tulpa amounts to nothing more than creating an imitation of her, and that it is a disservice to the waifu to make a tulpa of her. I counter this by claiming that a tulpa is, by nature, the real waifu. Each person's idea and understanding of the character differs, and the relationship had with each differs also. Thus, to have a waifu, one must essentially create an instance of her in the mind, and it is this exact concept that later translates into a tulpa. If you want her to, your tulpa can be one and the same as the character you love. But don't take it from me. Here's a quote from a fellow host named Raptor, who has lived with his waifu, Rainbow Dash, for years in this way. When I first realized I truly loved her, it seemed in hindsight that I had loved her for as long as I had known about her. I realize now that the core of her identity is that love that I took so long to recognize. I don't remember specifically when I recognized that she was a tulpa, because there was no sudden change. She had been just as active and alive and lovable for as long as I had fantasized about her. The change from fantasy to tulpa was, in other words, nothing but a shift in the words I used to describe her. Now that she's completely self-aware, she willingly adapts to reflect that essential dashness that I've been in love with ever since I first saw her face. You may wonder what these relationships look like years down the road. Some view tulpas as impermanent or too malleable to have a deep and sustained relationship. From what I've seen, this is far from the case. Raptor, the individual whose quote I just read, has been with his tulpa for over 7 years now. But he is far from the only one. Here's a bit of data from a study I once conducted on how host-tulpa love develops over time. As you can see, as tulpas grow older, their relationships only grow deeper. I would, however, like to add one word of caution. While it may be appealing to attempt a perfect recreation of your waifu, I recommend you take a few liberties. First and foremost, understand that some minor variations from your expectations are unavoidable, as these are often a reflection of your subconscious thoughts and feelings. Secondly, I also recommend that you avoid deliberately giving your tulpa negative traits, since flaws are likely to develop over time regardless. Instead, focus on the positive aspects of her personality and character as you progress. However, this is merely a recommendation, and if you truly want her with all of her flaws included, then you may make her with them. So, if you want to make a tulpa out of your waifu, or for the purposes of love and romance in general, do it. Don't let anyone tell you that you are wrong to do so, and don't feel obligated to live up to someone else's standards. Do what is right for you, and what makes you happy.